Morning, Matt. My name is Jim Paterson. I'm the chairman and CEO of ValOre Metals Corp. ValOre trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, ticker symbol VO, roughly 60 million market cap. We have a uranium project called Angilak in Northern Canada, 43 million pounds at 0.69, with lots of growth potential through exploration. We have a palladium platinum project called Pedra Branca, 2.2 million ounces inferred resource, again, with lots of growth potential. And hopefully we'll talk about those today.
Okay, well, Jim, I appreciate you coming on. I need my regular dose of the discovery group. So the reason why I say that is because, difficult times, got lots of inbound, people needing a bit of hand-holding, a bit of comfort as to, what's happening in the market and what they should do. You guys, I'm going to start with, as part of the discovery group, have done transactions, Cammac over 500 million, Corsa Capital, 250 million, Hathor, 650 million, Northern Empire, 117 million. You guys know how to build companies through cycles, right? So given the current economic climate, and you've got lots of portfolio companies in there too, what gives you comfort that your company will come out the other side of this and all is going to be well again?
I think when you're in the midst of it, it's sometimes tough to know with utter confidence that the sun will rise, but the sun does rise. Cycles are cycles, and the troughs are very difficult, but we do come through them. And I've been in the business since 1997, so I've seen lots of cycles and felt desperate for sure many times. But the confidence that comes with getting through it and knowing that it does end, and knowing that you need to be brave in the trough. It's easier to be brave at the top. And in fact, it's quite foolhardy to be brave at the top. So, right now we're in a difficult time, but the commodities markets aren't really bad. And there is capital available. It's bifurcated capital. So, only the good projects are getting funded. I tend not to rely too much on cycles. And I do say, if you've got a good project, move it forward as you are able to do with the finance and the resources you have at that time. And when the market is good, if you are in a position, you've advanced it and dusted that, put enough lipstick on the pig, she'll fly in the good market. So we're not in a good market right now, but we're driving with exploration to be in a position when those markets return.
Right. There's money around for good projects now, not so much for bad projects, as we saw in 2020. But let's talk about, ValOre, which is how do you move your projects forward? Because the difficulty you had in terms of the narrative in the marketplace, you kind of got this uranium thing, Angilak going on here, which, you spent a lot of money on historically, and then you kind of got your PGE story as well. So you've got to fund two things. We talked last time about strategic review of your asset portfolio. That was back in April. Again, given the market conditions, have you had to change or adapt your strategy or your intent, or is it kind of steady as she goes?
We did change our strategy when the uranium market got hot enough that we couldn't say no to the money. When we had the Angilak property effectively on ice since 2016, we did. And initially, I felt it was premature, let's say in 2017, 2018, 2019, even 2020, to start working on that property again. The market was creeping back, but I'd been I've been stung before by a premature uranium market and didn't want to get stung again. And then the market got strong enough in 2021 near the end that we were able to raise money. So we did change our strategy and did allocate capital to the uranium project in 2021. I think we made the right move. We got 2 rigs there right now, drilling. We've got news coming out in the next couple of weeks. So that's what we do, exploration, adding value through exploration. On the Palladium project, very slow burn down there in terms of costs. What we're finding is a lot of shallow mineralization. Shallow mineralization is actually much cheaper to find than deep mineralization. That sounds like such a simple statement, but drilling a 700-meter hole is way more expensive than drilling a 10-meter auger hole. So what we're doing down in Brazil is just we've got this really effective, productive crew, and they are basically knocking out of the park at shallow exploration programs.
Right. Okay. So with my investor hat on, my retail investor hat on, I'm looking for companies that know how to set themselves up for success, right? I'm looking at your track record, but past performance is no indication of future performance, as they say in finance. So what are you doing? You're telling me about some of the stuff that's happening, but what are the big things that I should look for in terms of, your company ValOre or your group, Discovery Group, or other investments that I'm looking at? What matters and what doesn't matter?
I would argue that past success does actually play into future success. And I think that when you succeed, the next time you go out after it, you're able to raise more money. You're able to attract better people because they'd like to be involved with success. So I think it totally affects future performance. And, we've got a really great reputation in terms of Discovery Group, and that helped us build great teams across the board, and specifically in ValOre. We've got an amazing Brazilian team. We've got great explorationists working for us in Northern Canada at the Angilak property, but great people in the office, great people on the board. That's because we're part of Discovery Group. It's not because we're a solitary company out there that's not had success on an individual basis.
Okay, so past performance, you're arguing it is, and I would agree to a larger degree that it is. And congrats on Great Bear, and congrats on Elemental Royalties recently, and we've seen a few of the other companies in the portfolio. But let me come back to the question, which is, for me as an investor looking into companies like this, apart from past performance, what is it that is important to look at and is not important to look at in times like these?
Don't panic just because others are panicking. Don't. Like, it sounds so simple, but then when you're looking at your screen, looking at all the red on the screen, you might be compelled to panic. Don't. One thing that really struck me is a friend of mine sends me data on the hedgers positions, and I also trade options as well and buy puts, and I did find that in typical investing, I do follow the herd. Like, on the day that I felt like I was being contrarian, I realized that the most people in history had bought puts that day, for example. So, I'm not immune to it, but in the mining sector, I think I have been, cauterized, let's say, through trial by fire, and I do have a pretty cool head, and I don't lose it. I don't lose my cool like I did 10, 15 years ago. These are the times when you want to be making investments, for sure. You want to be taking advantage of other people's fear. Bids go away, like literally bids go away. There's huge spreads. You can buy stuff at 30, 40% cheaper than you could have a year ago. And I think really, like, the masses, like, don't listen to the masses. Don't do exactly the opposite of what the masses are doing. So that's what you should not be looking at. Don't read the headlines and go, you know what, I should shit the bunk right now and get out of the business. No, the opposite. Get it more involved. If you're a retail investor, pick the best companies, the best projects, the past performance, and buy those ones.
But that's easier said than done, right? Because you've had a nice bounce recently. There's a few other companies have had a nice bounce since the Fed announcement last week, too. But it's hard when all the charts are going down to decipher where the company's going down just because of the markets or because they're shitty companies, when the good companies are also doing the same thing. So I'm trying to look for clues and cues from you to say, look, it comes down to the management team. You've said that. Asset thematics matter. I think, battery metal thematic matters because EV and infrastructure matters because the industries are pumping in hundreds of billions of dollars of investment into that space, and they're going to need the metals to actually, be able to do what they want to do, whatever they want to do. So, do you feel that if we talk about Russia, Ukraine has obviously changed the global movement of various metals and fossil fuels? Do you think that when we do come out of this cycle, as I agree with you, we always do, the world is going to look the same? Do some of those thematics go away? Are you fearful for that? Are you watching that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I absolutely watch it. I tend not to believe the talking points of the mainstream media. And I'm not going to throw a conspiracy theorist hat, although people will call me that. But definitely when an uneducated talking head is telling you that a certain thing about commodities or the way the market's going. They're just reading from a script. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. So I think if a commodity has real utility, regardless of what the politicians are trying to do, that commodity will remain useful. Oil and gas, petrochemicals, nuclear, palladium, platinum, gold, silver, nickel, copper, all these minerals and metals will have use. So regardless of what they tell you at the UN or whatever the talking points are, these are absolutely critical metals. They're all critical metals. And a good deposit will have value in any market. You just get less for it in the trough than you do at the peak.
Right. And just one final one. And look, I only wanted to kind of touch base with you and sort of see how things are. One final one. PGEs, we've talked about in the past, it's much misunderstood, or quite frankly, most people aren't interested in it because they don't actually understand into what thesis it feeds. Does that thesis still hold true? You know, are you again concerned about substitution, changing markets, changing needs? I mean, is your product one the world needs?
Yeah, I think that the substitution may or may not be inevitable down the road. There'll be different uses for useful metals, though. And in terms of actual ESG, real ESG, a catalytic converter does real ESG. It cleans up the environment, cleans up noxious fumes. So at this point in time, it is ESG, a catalytic converter, and which is what platinum and palladium, for the most part, for industrial uses are used. And on the uranium side, you know, we were watching to see what the EU would do in terms of whether nuclear was green or not. And quite frankly, if you know anything about the nuclear sector, you know it is. And it's actually one of the safest and best run businesses, I believe, in the world. They are very careful. They're like a Swiss watch personified, and it is an amazing source of energy. So I think nuclear has a real place, and particularly, I think people are coming to the realization, even the mainstream media, it's like you need base load power. You don't need intermittent power if you want to have a real economy. Nuclear petrochemicals provide that.
Okay, well, look, we have a whole bunch of questions sent in with regards to the different projects and the drill programs, the exploration and money and so forth. But you're short of time and need to be elsewhere, as do I. We thought we'd do 5-10 minutes, just catch up anyway, to see how things are going broadly, high level. We've agreed to speak in September, and we'll maybe ask you those same questions. Sorry, those questions have been sent in then. So thank you very much for everyone who sent those in. We haven't forgotten about it. It's just we didn't have time. We're going to cancel it, but we thought we'd do 5-10 minutes anyway. So we will come back to that one. Okay. I better let you go, Jim. Appreciate you making the time to see us today.
Feel super important. I like that. Yeah.
Well,
I do actually have to go.
Yeah. I treat you with respect at some point. So here it is. Today's the day. Jim, good to speak to you soon. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.